It's time for Come and Talk It with your host, Michael Cargill, brought to you by Texas Law Shield. Over the last decade, Michael has championed and supported the rights of law-abiding Texans to own and use firearms. He is the owner of Central Texas Gun Works, a veteran of the United States Army, and has achieved national exposure in such prestigious media outlets such as Forbes Magazine, Fox Business News, CNN Money, AOL, BBC World News, Huffington Post, and the New York Times. Cargill vigorously defends lawful gun ownership in this country without regard to party politics. And now, here's Michael Cargill.
Good day, Austin, Texas, the live music capital of the world. Let's praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. All right, so today we have Dave Matheny, the owner of Silencer Shop, inside the studio. Also, we're going to talk about made in Texas suppressors. I want to talk about, Crowbar in Austin, that little bar. What happened last month and what happened this past weekend as well. We're going to talk about Georgia, the U.S. Senate runoff election. We'll talk about that much later. And then also want to get into, 300 guns were stolen, Zach?
From where?
Oh, we're going to find out a little later.
Not from you.
No way. And then, a police officer was stabbed, and sent to the hospital. I'm going to talk about that. Also, gun hidden in chicken at airport. A gun hidden in a chicken at the airport.
That's terrible.
I just don't know what to say. And also, we're going to go to Connecticut, talk about what's going on in Connecticut. Also, we're going to travel over to Oregon and talk about what's happening there. But before we get into all that, I want to talk to you about silencers or suppressors. We have Dave Matheny inside the studio, and Dave is going to tell us about, he's got a lot of information. I want to talk about e-forms. I want to talk about NFA items. I want to talk about, trusts and all the good kind of stuff, because we get all these questions. And Zach, this year, we had some really weird things happen. Well, we actually had people die, and we actually have their items, inside the store. And so we had to, face the reality of what do you do when someone passes away? And what do you do if they don't have a trust, and they pass away?
Because you had NFA items, right?
Right. We're talking about a suppressor, a machine gun. What do you do with that item? So we had to deal with that this year. And so, we're trying to, I'm not an attorney and I can't give you legal advice, but, you really got to think about the process. We don't expect something to happen to us. We don't expect to get sick. We don't expect to get arrested. But if you do, you got to have a plan of what you're going to do with your NFA item, your National Firearms Act item, your machine gun, your suppressor, your short barrel rifle, short barrel shotgun, your zip gun, your AOW. What are you going to do with those items if something happens to you? So I've welcomed Dave. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Outstanding. So, Dave, first tell us, what is up with the Made in Texas suppressor?
That has been a very confusing topic. And it's because the goal of that law was, honestly, I think fantastic. I think trying to, in a lot of ways, undermine the NFA, which I think is a good goal. The problem is it's also created a lot of confusion because ATF, they've done this in other states. Kansas had a similar law. Multiple people ended up going to prison for about 10 years for trying to follow the letters of those laws. The ATF has come in and said they will continue to enforce in Texas. So you're sort of gambling right now.
Wow.
if you go down this road. Now, having said that, the state of Texas is suing. If this lawsuit goes through, which more than likely will be years down the road, but if it does, there's a possibility that this could make the whole NFA, to some extent fall apart. Right. Because you'll start seeing these laws pop up everywhere.
Correct.
But as it stands right now, personally, I would not risk it. And I don't expect it to be something even in the medium future that it'll be any difference at all.
Right. So you're saying right now, let's let it work through the courts first before you go ahead and make your suppressor.
Man, I'm just saying I wouldn't be the test case if it were me.
You have to have a test case, right?
That's right. Yeah, the test cases in Kansas are in prison.
Mm.
So it's I would not set myself up to be that.
Federal prison, right?
Federal prison. Yeah.
And that's
not a fun place.
No.
That's what we've been telling people, don't do it. Don't try it.
Yeah.
Let's wait until the Texas AG, fight this out for us, and once they work that out, then we'll know what we can do.
That's right.
Because ATF released a letter, and ATF said, hey, we know Texas passed a Made in Texas suppressor law. Unfortunately, that still goes against the federal law. Suppressors are pretty much governed and you know, maintained by the ATF. So they've got to be registered. You got to get a tax stamp. You got to go through the process and fill out the paperwork and wait for your approval. And they've got to be registered with the federal government.
That's right. Exactly.
Does there have to be a test case in order for this to
No,
progress?
no, they're
No?
suing it already. But I'm saying
Okay.
you don't want to be the test
Yeah.
case that they're prosecuting you.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because you lose that. You lose that. You go to federal
Yeah,
prison.
the stakes are very high.
Yeah.
That's one you just don't want to mess with. And like I said, it's unfortunate because the goal is good, but the confusion it's caused has not been positive. Right. In my opinion.
Right.
Especially for those guys in Kansas, right?
Yeah, that's right.
All right. So, Dave, what is the good and bad with e-forms? Because right now you can, well, last year we were doing our Form 4 on paper
That's right.
and submitting it that way. And now this year we've gone to e-forms. And you
Yep.
guys were very instrumental in that.
Yeah. eForms has also been sort of a mixed bag, and we talked to ATF a lot before it launched. Even about 2 months ago, I was at ATF headquarters. We spent a lot of time talking about eForms then. The goal from ATF, and they've actually been directed, Department of Justice has directed the ATF to have all their forms approved within 90 days, in eForms. When they went out the gate, they expected that to be the case, but it it clearly has not been. They're up to about 7 months now, right? What they were saying is they're trying to get their paper backlog caught up until they want to get all the paper forms approved through the end of last December, and then they'll refocus their efforts on eForms again. So I expect those times with eForms to start dropping.
Right.
I do think also the process that they've set up with eForms has not been ideal. I mean, the certification process, even before I went live, I thought this is not going to be cool.
Ooh,
But having said that, people have adapted to it and people are starting to figure it out. We have a new system coming, hopefully in Q1 of next year, that should simplify that even more, the
Right.
certification process. But it's yeah, I mean, wait times are, anybody who's in this business knows that wait times are key. If you could be approved in 7 days, we'd sell 10 times more
Mm.
silencers.
That's right.
But as wait times creep back up to the 6, 7 month mark,
Right.
the excitement of reforms is sort of died off with it,
Correct.
right?
Yeah, and we're a small shop and we've done over 200 e-forms already this year, and we submitted them all through and everything.
Yeah, I wouldn't say you guys are a small shop. You guys are
We're s-
holding your own.
Yeah, we've done pretty good. So just so you know, when we're talking about e-forms, so when you get a suppressor, you get a machine gun or something like that, one of the NFA items, you have to fill out paperwork. You have to fill out a Form 4 and get a tax stamp. You have to pay a $200 fee for that, a tax. And you have to get your fingerprints done, take your photo, and you can get a trust. We're going to talk about that a little later or not. And then you submit that paperwork to the ATF once they approve you in about 90 days to
Yeah.
whenever. Then you can walk back into the gun store, the FFL dealer, and pick up your item, once you fill out the firearms transaction record. Right? So, Dave, a lot of people ask about, how dealers. A lot of dealers are having issues with technology and the computer system.
Right.
We've switched from paper forms as far as the 4473. Someone who walks into the gun store, they want to pick up a firearm. We don't have them fill out the paper with actual paper and ink. We have them go to a computer. And COVID taught us that we need to evolve and get a little faster and roll with technology. So, how are dealers dealing with e-forms?
I think initially when eForms initially rolled out, and man, I'll actually say a lot of this was on us, right? So we had it was a combination of ATF's rollout of eForms was very bumpy. It was about 2, 3 weeks after it launched before most people could even create accounts.
Mm,
And then on top of that, we were having trouble bringing our system online in a way that would scale, right? So it was solidly into, sheesh, I'd say February, March timeframe before we were submitting in any real volume. Even with that, in Q1 of this year, we successfully submitted a little over 100,000 Form 4s.
wow.
So it's not like forms weren't being submitted. It was a rocky launch.
Hold that thought, Dave. We're talking with Dave. He's the owner of Silencer Shop. We're talking about suppressors. We're talking about e-forms. We're talking about NFA items. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
This is Coley on Noir, and you're listening to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.
I'm a U.S. Army veteran with a strong sense of duty and respect for our system of government. After 12 years, I was honorably discharged and decided I would fulfill the American dream of entrepreneurship and open up a gun shop in Austin, Texas. At my shop, I teach people to be law-abiding and how to safely use their firearm. On page 46, going to talk about Penal Code Section 46.02. The day that ban went into effect, I went into my local ATF in Austin and turned over my bump stock because I'm a law-abiding citizen. But I wasn't going down without a legal fight. So that's why I reached out to NCLA.
NCLA is representing Michael Cargill because federal agencies do not have the power to rewrite statutes. Bump stocks are not machine guns. If Congress wants to change the law and ban bump stocks, it certainly can do so. But we can't have the executive branch rewriting a statute and putting people in jail for up to 10 years.
It's a problem because, this government agency has said, you know what, something that is legal is now illegal, and we're going to confiscate it from you, and we're not going to compensate you for it, and you're going to become a criminal.
The goal of our case here is to tell the ATF that they can't get away with this kind of administrative lawmaking. This isn't constitutionally permissible, and this goes against everything that our nation was founded on.
The bump stock ban turned innocent law-abiding citizens into criminals overnight, even though they were compliant with the statute. And that's not right.
This case is not about where you stand on bump stocks. It's about the rule of law. It's about whether an agency can rewrite a statute and turn a law-abiding citizen into a criminal. If the ATF can ban bump stocks, any agency can ban anything.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, we're talking with Dave. He's the owner of Silencer Shop. We're talking about suppressors, silencers, e-forms. We're talking about NFA items. So, Dave, you were telling us about dealers and how, how's everyone, all the FFL dealers dealing with e-forms and this new technology?
So I was kind of talking about the rough start of the whole process, but I think it got smoothed out, actually, I feel like, as well as it probably could have in the time we had. I was just at a couple of dealers in Sedalia, Missouri about 2 weeks ago, and they were honestly doing great with it. I try to pop in and just kind of see how people are doing, and the complaints from the Q1 of this year have kind of dried up for the most part. Dealers are figuring out how e-forms work.
Right.
That certification process that ATF put in place where everybody has to have a PIN and a username and everybody has to remember it all, it's not ideal.
Right.
But we're doing the best we can to work through that.
Yeah. What I do is I call the customer up and I say, hey, make sure you have your username and your 4-digit PIN number.
That's right.
And then, and as I start logging in, I say, do you have that? Yes, I have it. Okay, you have it in front of you right now. Yes. And then it goes real quick.
That's right.
Once they have that.
Yep.
And usually there's been small little things like people will change emails. And so when they change that information, they don't put it on the form. So we have to go back and maybe update their email. And those are little things that I find that customers actually do some things wrong that we actually have to fix. But for the most part, it's smooth. I love it.
It's working a lot better now. I feel like they're just cranking through. I mean, people seem happy with it, dealers, customers. So it's really turned a corner over the last 6 months.
Oh, it's awesome. I love it. The fact that we've gotten so many forms actually submitted and we're waiting for them to come back. I think we're waiting. They're working on March right now.
Yeah, they're almost exactly 7 months behind right now.
Wow. Okay. And then during the break, you were talking about reloading. You're saying you go hunting. And you were telling us what do you hunt?
This year I've gone bear hunting, moose hunting, elk hunting, and pheasant hunting just in the last 6 weeks. My favorite hunt this year's favorite story. I actually went moose hunting, spent a week, worked my butt off in Maine, did not get a moose, and then on the way back to the airport, hit one with the rental car.
Oh my goodness! Oh no! Wow. Well, you got it.
That's right.
Wow. That's unreal. And so you tell us about reloading. And so you like the reload,
I
but
love reloading.
why is
Yeah.
that? Why?
For me, it's it's you can relax. It's the kind of the science of it, just trying to get the precision exact. You know, improved accuracy. Something about that just appeals to me. Right. It's not something you do to save money, but
Mm.
if you enjoy reloading, then it kind of becomes a hobby of its own.
What do you need? A press, some scales.
Pretty much, yeah. But the press and the dies, scales, stuff like that will get you started. And a single stage press, unless you're doing like for rifle ammo, I always use a single stage. For
Mhm.
pistol ammo, I'll switch over to the progressive just because you just need too much volume, right? But on the rifle, I always do single stage.
So basically, when you shoot a bullet out of a rifle, for example, that casing expands to fill the headspace, right?
That's right.
And then the bullet comes out, and basically, you take that spent cartridge and you have to press it so it goes back to its original size,
You know,
back
you
down.
you can do that if you're gonna have it. If you're gonna be shooting in multiple guns, then you have to resize the entire
Then you
case.
have to be smaller just to be in spec with all the
Right.
guns.
But if you're only shooting at one gun, you actually get better accuracy if you just size the neck, so you can seat a new bullet,
Oh,
and
so
the case will
then the
last
rest of the
longer.
casing fills the headspace
Yep,
better?
that's right. Yep, you don't get that play in there. You can control a lot of variables that you can't with factory ammo.
So that makes it more accurate then, right?
That's right,
Oh,
by
wow.
quite a bit actually.
Wow.
All right. Then, so Dave, let's change gears a little bit. So why should people get a trust, with their NFA item?
There are several good reasons to get a trust. The one that to me is the absolute most people don't think about it is possession.
Mm.
And what you get is the 23-year-old guy just came across some money, isn't married, thinks, "Oh, I'll never be married." But we all know he is gonna be married someday more than likely. And you need to be able to have possession. You need to be able to allow possession for anybody else in your life. So if once you are married, somebody breaks into your house, your wife's home alone, she uses the gun in self-defense with the suppressor, she's committing a felony if you don't have a trust and she's not on it.
Ooh.
Ooh.
So it's a pretty big deal. And there's also inheritance. Inheritance is another big one. It makes inheritance simpler, right?
And
But
some people think they can. Well, I'll just put it in my will.
yeah, and you can do a Form 5 when you die. That does work. There's no tax, but it's just a hassle for your beneficiaries,
Gotcha.
right? Whereas with the trust, all the hassle goes away because your beneficiaries are already dealing with you dying, right? We're gonna assume they're sad, but it's they're dealing with that, and
They'll be
there's
happy to get your suppressor,
yeah,
though.
that's right. It's the possession though is the bigger deal that affects you when you're alive, right?
Okay. And then what's the difference between like the single shot trust, the NFA gun trust?
In my opinion, that single shot is the way to buy a silencer.
Hmm.
Every time you buy one, you get a new trust that's assigned to that specific silencer, SBR, machine gun, whatever, right? And and then you can add trustees to it after it's approved. So it's only your fingerprints, only your photo, only your background check to get it
Wow.
approved.
Okay.
You add other people on, and then you go to buy another silencer 2 weeks later, you just get another trust and it's still just you. As soon as you add additional trustees to a trust, every person on there has to get fingerprints, photos, the whole shebang. They have to be involved in, signatures and everything else, right?
Okay.
So it simplifies the process and gives you a lot more flexibility.
So single shot trust, $21.95, very cheap on South Shop's
That's
website.
right. Yep.
Very cheap. And so if I do that, and then once I go ahead and pick up the item, then I can add people later.
That's right.
Wow.
So these trusts are exclusive silencer shop
They are.
trusts.
Yep.
Pretty ironclad legal documents,
Yep.
basically.
They're tied into our system very tightly too. So they're honestly, you even get the benefits of registering as an individual because ATF doesn't want a lot of trustees when they're doing background checks. They prefer these one person trusts, right?
Mhm.
So
And what do you do in a situation where the person hasn't picked it up yet from the gun store? They passed away, and they have it under a single shot trust.
that's a good question. If they you can actually write people onto a single shot trust after it's been approved, and the new person you write on can pick it up.
Okay.
But if you're dead,
You can't do it.
yeah, that's something I, like I
Ooh.
said, hadn't considered before.
Wow. Yeah, we've had to deal with that this year. But luckily, this person actually had someone else named on the trust, and they were able to
Okay.
pick it up.
Yep.
So it wasn't in the situation of the single shot. So very sad situation. They went on vacation and actually drowned while on vacation.
Oh man,
And
that's
and we
horrible.
actually been contacting them, trying to call them for like 2 years. And so we're not even supposed to hold it that long. And so I was like, okay, I noticed we've had this thing a long time. It's like, I've got to, either cancel this trust or something, cancel the tax stamp, because that's an issue. So I finally got in touch with someone, realized his brother is also a regular customer in the shop. And so found out he's on the trust. He brought a copy of the trust and he was able to pick it up. So very sad situation. And, we just didn't realize why this was a regular customer. We didn't realize why we were unable to get in touch with him. And so
Yeah.
we found out.
You get into those 12-month wait times, and that kind of thing happens more often than you think.
Yes, it does. Very sad situation. And it happens with just regular guns too. Things that people buy online and have it shipped to the shop. Be surprised how
Really?
often someone actually passes away and not pick up their item. We've had guns for like 5 years. Uh, no one picked them up. Call them, and then we end up Googling, researching, and figure out that person passed away.
Right.
And we've had it for like 5 years. Yeah, so it does happen. It does happen. Um, so what's what is the ATF rule 2021R or 05F, which is the ATF frame and receiver rule. What's up with that? A lot of people asking about that.
That is, in a lot of ways, for the gun industry, a pretty horrible ruling, right? With
Mm,
them having to serialize different parts. ATF, just because of political pressure, is they're trying to prevent guns from the air, like the AR-15, from
all right.
existing,
All right, hold
right?
that thought real quick. I'm gonna let you finish that on the other side of the break there. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Folks, this is Doug Man Jones. And I get my gun news from Michael Cargill at Come and Talk It.
Whether it's a typical traffic stop or you're just involved in a use of force incident, encounters with law enforcement can be scary and stressful. In the heat of the moment, you may inadvertently say something you don't mean or make an inconsistent statement. These are red flags for officers, and if they think you're lying or your story doesn't add up, they might arrest you and let the criminal justice system decide your fate. Police officers are trained to get information from you without making the interaction seem like a formal interrogation. But remember, from the moment an officer arrives on scene, everything you say and everything you do will be scrutinized in court. The prosecuting attorney will attempt to use anything and everything against you. So what do you say? You say, I invoke my right to remain silent, and then let your attorney interact with law enforcement on your behalf. One important note though, do not throw common sense out the window. For example, if the intruder's hiding somewhere in your house when the police arrive, or if you saw the perpetrator pitch his weapon into your backyard, quickly tell the police and then stop talking. You might ask, what about my rights? What if the police never read me my Miranda rights? Miranda rights is the common name for a collection of rights contained in the Miranda warnings, given to suspects when they're placed under arrest. The warning comes from a 1966 Supreme Court case, Miranda v. Arizona. In that case, the court held that statements from a custodial interrogation would not be admissible unless proper procedural safeguards were in place to protect the defendant's Fifth Amendment rights. We've all seen these warnings on TV and movies. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to have an attorney. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, and so on. So do police have to read you your rights? No. It's important to note that officers are not required to read you these rights unless you're in custody and subjected to interrogation. If the police show up to a crime scene and start asking you general questions and you voluntarily tell them everything that happened, those statements can be used against you regardless of the Miranda warnings because you're not in custody. If you're put in handcuffs but you say something incriminating on your own without being questioned, those statements can and will be used against you because you're not being interrogated. You're just starting to spout off. This is why it's imperative that you know your rights and you shouldn't rely on the police to
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so we have Dave, the owner of Silencer Shop, here inside the studio, and we're talking about the ATF Rule 2021R-05F, the ATF Frame and Receiver Rule. So, Dave, you were kind of, telling us about this.
Yeah, and really, let me focus on the silencer aspect of it.
Sure.
I think, right now, ATF is very, very focused, and as crazy as this sounds, as a result of this ruling, they're focused on end caps. So they, every silencer that comes with a potential end cap, they're treating that as a silencer part, and they're trying to get rid of the end caps, right, as accessories, and they're linking it in with this ruling. I do think long term, the ruling may actually be good for silencer owners. It's hard to tell. With ATF involved, it probably won't be. But as far as the silencer goes, if you could define a receiver that was part of your silencer, you kind of open the door to some modularity designs that just aren't currently possible or weren't possible before this ruling. But this is all a little bit of speculation. Nothing has come of it yet, right? So as far as guns go, it is straight up a bad ruling. But with silencers, it's yet to be determined.
Oh, wow. Okay. And then you're asking Dave about his work at the Capitol, legislature and stuff like that.
So you're a lobbyist, right?
We do a lot of lobbying. I'm not a lobbyist myself.
A lobbying connoisseur of sorts.
Yeah, there you go.
What do you lobby for?
Our primary things that we focus on are simplifying the NFA process, bringing down wait times. I really think that within the next few years, ATF wait times could be 7 days, right? And I think once we get down to that time, it'll be like buying something on Amazon, and it'll no longer be a barrier to entry, right? I do think people tend to focus a lot on the Hearing Protection Act, HPA, just pulling them completely out of the NFA. The votes were never really there for that, as much as we all kind of wished they were. There was one point where it could have passed the House, but it was never going to pass the Senate. I think that if this market grows enough, call it over the next 10 years, I think something like that could potentially be possible. But in today's environment, there's just no way, right, that something like this is going to happen. So we have to focus on wait times and also keeping ATF kind of in check to some extent, because they have, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the way they're shutting down dealers this year.
Yes.
We've been pretty actively involved in that, and just trying to help our dealers who are caught up in it. Right.
Yeah. And we've actually filed a lawsuit against the ATF and the DOJ for that.
Good.
So we got that in the works, and we're actually sitting in the Fifth Circuit right now. Any day now, we're going to hear the results of the bump stock case, which is really not about bump stocks at all. This case is really about the ATF creating law.
Chevron deference.
That's correct.
That's
So,
right.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with bump stocks at all. It's just that one thing, because we're talking about a federal agency. Whether it's EPA, any federal agency creating law. That's for Congress to do that. So
That's right.
So we're right now. That's at the Fifth Circuit. Michael Cargill versus the DOJ, and so we should hear back from that like any day now. And I think it's going to look really good for us.
Oh, those bump stocks are crazy because there are almost no gun people like bump stocks, right? I mean, I would never own one.
Not
I
for
think,
accuracy.
yeah, I
No.
think they're sort of dumb. But having said that, I think the rule that ATF, like, they tried to pretend it's a machine gun, that is a horrible ruling, and it needs to be struck down because they're taking on, like you're saying, the ability to make law rather than enforce it.
Correct. And that's what Congress is for.
Yep,
All right. So you guys are doing something with like electronic 4473s.
that's right.
So you're helping dealers out with that.
Yep.
How's that work?
So ATF just put out a new rule, and most people don't realize that unless you watched Red Dawn with the Wolverines, the
Right.
4473s. That 4473, when you leave the dealer, doesn't actually go anywhere. That dealer just sits on that form for 20 years. ATF passed a new rule this year where now they have to sit on it forever.
Ever.
And
this-
whenever a gun store closes, they have to give all their records to the ATF, right? Or the FBI.
Yes, and it was optional before, but now I think it's required.
So basically, this is a de facto registry of sorts. Huh?
And ATF claims that what they're doing is, well, we're not digitizing them, so it's not a registry. You know how easy it is to digitize that stuff? But regardless, it's a so what we're doing is, 4473 Cloud kind of solves the problem that the dealers have of piles and piles of these forms. I mean, in some cases, warehouses full of
Oh
them.
yes, I used to have an office at Central Texas Gunworks. My office is now the file room,
That's right.
so I don't have an office anymore.
Yeah. It is a huge problem for dealers to sit on these forms forever. And 4473 Cloud solves that. It lets you store them digitally in a way that's tamper evident is what the technology is called. Secure. I mean, it's I think it's the future.
Now, is this going to affect the old forms? Like, am I going to be able to scan in those old forms and save
As
those to the cloud?
as of right now, no, but
No.
I think
Okay.
that is coming very soon.
Really? Okay, good.
Is
That
this
would help out a
cloud
lot.
database accessible to law enforcement agencies?
Not at all.
Not at all.
No. In fact, we actually bent over backwards to make sure there was no access to that from anybody who shouldn't have access to it. It's only to the dealer. So same as before, if the ATF calls and runs a trace, you look it up and you give them the information, but they don't have the ability to look it up themselves.
Okay.
Right.
But we do know that all data on the internet goes through basically an NSA pipeline, right?
Yeah, I don't know about that.
So
But
they
it's
don't have
a
direct access to it
that's right.
unless they really need it.
So, like right now, I'm kind of torn. I'm torn between, um, changing my FFL and getting a new FFL just so I can turn in my old and canceling the current FFL so I can ship off the old forms. And I'm kind of torn between doing that. It's like, man, do I really want to send all those old forms, to the ATF to the government, or is there a way I can, upload those forms and keep them, digitally? I
Right.
would definitely rather do that rather
Yeah.
than ship them all off.
No, it's the more secure way because ATF isn't getting a hold of it.
Correct.
Right. But man, I tell you that what dealers have to think of right now is with ATF opening up old audits and
Yes.
then issuing revocations based on old
Ooh.
audit results. It's a resetting your FFL isn't such a bad idea,
Right.
So
just
they're
for
just looking for ways to
self-defense.
shut you
Correct.
down, huh?
That's what they've done half as many audits this year and shut down, the last I heard, is between 5 and 700% more dealers.
And just simple little minor mistakes, such as,
Typos.
yeah, yeah. Well, let's say on the form, the 4473, instead of putting the county,
Yeah,
you put the country, U.S.,
that's right.
and you've had 10 customers do that.
Yep.
They'll shut you down.
And then ATF, let's say they came in and did an audit and you passed and they just said, hey, don't do this again. Now they're reopening those audits from 2 or 3 years ago
Oh
and
wow.
saying, oh, never mind, we are terminating your FFL. So they're not shutting down based on new audits. They're shutting down based on old audits.
And they
Oh
know that you
wow.
did something wrong in the old audit. So
That's
they
right.
can just say, oh, look at this audit. They did something wrong then. We can just bring that up. That's something right there. We
Yeah,
can
so
shut
it's
'em down
easier
for.
for them right now to
And
terminate more.
everyone's made mistakes.
Everybody makes
There's no
mistakes.
perfect, there's no, if we, and I said this, once before, if we put the same guidelines to hospitals, we would actually not have any hospitals at all in this country.
That's right. Yeah, if you put the same guidelines to ATF's own records, you'd have no ATF.
Oh my goodness.
Hey,
No, no,
we
no.
know that'll never happen, though.
That's right.
Mhm.
All right. So, and Dave, you were talking earlier about going hunting, and you were talking about the firearms that you like to shoot with. What are some of your favorite guns?
My overall favorite big game rifle is a 280 Ackley. Man, I love that thing. Just fantastic caliber. But this year I was playing around with the new 8.6 Blackout, which Kevin Brittingham from Q has been pushing. And I got to tell you, for short range on big game, because of the twist rate in the right barrel, I don't know if you guys are aware, that's a 1 in 3 twist.
1 and 3.
So it's a 338 bullet with a 1 in 3 twist, and almost all your energy is actually coming from the spin of the bullet rather than the velocity.
Wow.
And the wound channel from that thing is just crazy. It's honestly unlike anything I'd ever seen before. We shot a 420-pound black bear and it just dropped.
Wow.
Wow. And there's a question out there for you. Someone said, back to talking about the e forms and saving that stuff. Can the cloud be hacked?
Can the cloud be hacked?
Right.
There are multiple certifications. We keep it in a very, very secure, like, data center, essentially. But it's the odds of it getting hacked with all the security measures in place are very, very low.
Okay.
I'm not going to say zero, but
Anything's
it seems
possible.
like zero. Yeah.
Anything's possible nowadays. Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. Anything else going on with Silencer Shop that we need to know about?
Really at right now this year I feel like we've really started to get a handle on some of our processes, some of our user interfaces. Next year, new certification process coming for eForms, which I think will be a big win for everybody. Just
What are you
simplify the
trying to do with
whole.
that?
Man, I can't say.
Oh man, I almost had you.
Sorry, it's really awesome
I
though.
almost made you tell. Real close there. Almost made him slip it out.
So yeah, we just moved into a new building, so we
Really?
have. Yep.
So you're not on Burnett anymore?
We're actually in two locations. We were in the 183, and that's still our storefront.
Okay.
But we have a new, essentially, headquarters building, 26,000 square feet on 5 acres. It's pretty
Oh,
awesome.
wow.
Wow. Yeah, because I used to make this joke. I was like, man, you guys are like the largest distributor when it comes to suppressors, and you're in this small little location as
know.
far as the storefront.
I know, and
Yeah.
that's still there, and it'll be there probably for I'd say close to another year, and then we'll shut that
And they shut
down.
that down.
Yeah,
Wow. Are you going to open a bigger storefront?
that's the plan.
Wow.
We'll have a kind of a. Now we don't sell. People can buy there, but they have to pick up at a local dealer.
That's good. I like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a.
That helps out the dealer.
That's right. But it is nice to have a place to come in and see everything. Some people like that. So we'll probably have a destination location in our new building. We haven't 100% decided yet. We could go at this point either way. We may have no storefront anymore, or we may have like a destination location.
Wow.
Right.
Nice. Man, thank you, Dave. I really appreciate you coming on and giving us an update on all this stuff. I mean, we talked about e-forms. You talked about the NFA process. We've talked about, tax stamps. Man, I love it. And I hope you guys are, you go back and you play this again because this is a lot of good information. Thank you, Dave, from Silencer Shop, sir.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. We come back from the break. We're going to go around the country and talk about the gun news. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Hi, this is Stephen Williford, the Barefoot Defender. I get my global gun news from Michael Cargill at Come and Talk It.
Hello, my name is Edwin Walker. I'm an independent program attorney with Texas Law Shield. I want to talk to you today about an issue that we see on a daily basis. In fact, you yourself will encounter it on a daily basis, and that is the subject of road rage. I am sure that you have all seen road rage. You may have actually been involved in a road rage incident. Now, if you're a responsible gun owner, I'm going to give you a few words of advice on how to react when you find yourself in one of these unfortunate road rage incidents. While on the roadways, we all observe something that makes us upset. Whether it's poor driving, unsafe driving, or just simply somebody being very discourteous. By all means, you should restrain yourself from engaging that person and telling them how bad their actions were, because this can be perceived as an act of road rage. If you're a lawful gun owner, you have a firearm in your vehicle, you do not want to be viewed as the aggressor in a road rage situation. Now, with regard to a situation where an individual has chosen to rage against you, and you are the actual victim of the road rage, if you and the other individuals are still in their automobiles, do not use your firearm to respond to any of the rager's activities. This is because law enforcement views the fact that you're both still safely in your metal boxes as removing any threat of immediacy that you may be harmed. So please, if you have a gun, somebody is raging against you, forget you have a gun. Don't display it, don't brandish it, don't show it, don't point it, and for God's sake, don't fire it. This could result in a lot of trouble for you. Now let's look at a situation where a road rage incident has escalated. It has escalated to the point where one of the participants has actually gotten out of their vehicle. We recommend that you stay in your vehicle at all times. Do not exit your vehicle. because the person who exits their vehicle is going to be looked at as the aggressor. If the other individual has exited their vehicle and they are not in contact with your vehicle and they do not have a weapon, then do not feel that you can display your weapon in an act of self-defense. People are allowed to just simply stand there and scream at you, scream whatever they want. Until they make a demonstrative effort to try to harm you, there is no immediate threat that would justify displaying or shooting or brandishing your firearm. Now, in the event that the person shows their own weapon, in particular a firearm, the existence of their weapon would give you reasonable belief that there was an immediate...
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so we're back, and let's talk about some gun news. Let's go around the country here. If you don't know, it looks like the Democrats are going to hold control of the U.S. Senate. It looks like the Republicans...
President Harris and I...
the Republicans going to gain control of the House. So, stuff is still going. Ballots are still being counted. Nothing's final yet. There's a runoff election for Georgia Senate race. It looks like everything else has been called. And so, unfortunately, can't depend on Georgia. I think Georgia will let us down anyway. So, but, they have the vice president, which is that 51st vote. So that means that the Democrats will remain control of the Senate, with the vice president's vote there. So we'll see how things go along now.
Oh, come on, man.
I know. Well, that's why elections are very important. They're important for your gun rights. So now, since the pro-gun community could not get control of the Senate, hopefully the pro-gun community can, hold on control of the House. Then that way we can stop any anti-gun legislation from being passed.
Hell yes.
But unfortunately, if we lose control of the House, then we're going to have to work it in the courts. And that's why these court cases that we're involved in are very important, because we'll have to let the courts decide on what goes on. All right. And so let's talk about the news. Let's stay in here in Austin, Texas. I love Austin. It's a beautiful city, capital of Texas. And unfortunately, we put the same people back in office.
Hey.
Same people, same city council, back in office again. And so, what happened? A police officer was stabbed at a HEB in Austin. Police officer stabbed at a HEB in Austin just yesterday. Okay, this past Saturday, at 10:43 in the morning. What in the world goes on so bad on a Saturday morning? Confrontations, things are so heated that a police officer gets stabbed. And you got to think about that. If a police officer can be stabbed and is goes to the hospital in an ambulance in serious with a serious injury there, imagine you, the regular citizen. You might want to take your own personal safety in your own hands, because it's getting really crazy. Because we're looking at and I will put my reputation on this. I'm willing to bet you that the person that stabbed this police officer, I will bet you that you're going to find out whether they release it or not. We'll find out, okay, that this person has been arrested several times and not charged or, not been prosecuted or whatever, several times, and is back out on the street. I'm willing to put my reputation on that. It's going to be a repeat offender, because that's, those are the people that are committing these crimes. Repeat offenders who are not actually being prosecuted like they should. And then Zach, you remember the bar that was burned down?
Crowbar.
The crowbar. Well, the crowbar, yeah. So crowbar guy allegedly burned down the crowbar.
Yeah, that burned down some other spots too, didn't he?
Well, apparently, he tried to burn down the great outdoors.
Oh.
Allegedly. Looks like the same person this past weekend. So
This past weekend?
That is correct. So it's the same. So I'm like, isn't this person in jail? No, he's not. He's out. So back
probably in jail for 24 hours, then released.
And then released. Yeah. So and I know how this is going to all play out. The judge is going to say, hey, this person is not fit, for for trial. They're not stable, so they're probably not going to prosecute at all, and it's going to be an ongoing continuation process, and they're never going to be processed. They're not going to be prosecuted for doing any of these alleged crimes. So we'll see. It's man, and just so you know, when it comes to arson, doesn't matter if it's daytime or nighttime. Someone's committing arson, you can use force or deadly force to stop that person. When it comes to property, you can definitely they're committing arson. They're committing arson, burglary, robbery, aggravated robbery, theft during the nighttime, or criminal mischief at night. You can use force or deadly force to stop them. So just keep that in mind, because man, doesn't look like the courts are going to help us out here in Austin, Texas.
Criminal mischief at night, but not during the day.
Criminal mischief at night, not during the daytime. And nighttime, yes, 30 minutes before, 30 minutes after sunset, sunrise. So just be careful of that. What time is it? Not yet. Wait a couple hours.
Wait 30 minutes after sunrise and sunset.
There you go.
30 minutes before sunset, 30 minutes after sunset, 30 before sunrise, right?
Yeah, there you go. All right, so man, it's just insane. And we put the same people, same city council, same type of. We're gonna put the same type of mayor back in the office. Also, the mayor's race is in a runoff election, but you're gonna have there's no choices when it comes to the people being protected.
It's the DAs that are involved with this too, right?
Yeah, that's right. The district attorney wasn't up for election this term.
My name is Jose Garza, and I'm humbled to be your district attorney.
So we're gonna have to wait 2 years to try to get this person out of office, but it's gonna be hard unless this is Austin, that blue dot. So the reality of it is, it's very hard. So you're gonna have to get a Democrat to actually unseat him, unfortunately. Mhm. And then, man, 300 guns were stolen, Zach.
From where? Not from you.
No.
Uh-uh.
So apparently, let's see, where is this? Indianapolis. They're seeking an uptick in stolen guns. So people will walk by, look into a vehicle, and they see it. They'll go get it, according to the Indianapolis Police Department there.
So they recovered 329 guns, right?
Yeah. So so 329 to be exact so far this year. We don't know where they don't know where they are. Those
They
guns are
recovered
going.
300. There have been 329 stolen.
So,
right.
Yeah, their proactive unit, for example, so far have taken roughly 306 crime guns off the street, and to know that they've lost roughly 329 firearms from inside a vehicle is certainly alarming. And I try to remind people, and this is a story out of Indianapolis, but this plays out in every major city in the country. Take for example Texas, when constitutional carry went into effect on September the 1st of 2021. On that day, a lot of parking lots, shopping centers were hit. People were breaking into cars because all the media was talking about was you can carry a gun, you don't need a license, and so people were breaking into cars looking for firearms. And so we try to remind people, late at night when you drive home, bring your gun out of your vehicle, take it out of your vehicle, and bring it inside the house. Don't leave your gun in your vehicle overnight. That's all people do is break into cars at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning while you're sleeping, in that deep sleep, to try to get your firearm, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for guns. All right, so definitely take them out of the vehicle. And all those, Zach, the 30.06 and 07 and 05 signs, you know what those say?
And they say that they don't want you to carry a gun inside their establishment, right?
No, those signs say all the guns are in the vehicle in the parking lot, break into the vehicles in the parking lot.
Well, those signs don't mean anything in terms of legality, right? You can still carry your gun in there.
As long as you don't see the sign. As far as a license holder, if you don't see the sign, you don't notice the sign, then you go in, they have to tell you verbally to leave.
So if you say you didn't see the sign or noticed it,
if you didn't see
they
it,
have to give you verbal warning to leave, and then you have to not leave and wait for the police to arrive.
Right.
What if they don't give you verbal warning? They just call the police, and then the police come up to you.
They have to tell you in front of that police officer to leave. You refuse to leave, then it becomes criminal trespass.
So even if the police officer is there and they say you need to leave,
and
if you leave, nothing happens.
You're good to go.
So those signs mean nothing.
Yeah, as long as you didn't see the sign. You admit you saw the sign.
Yeah, do not see the sign.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
And there was, last weekend, downtown. What was that, a 512 bar on 6th Street called the 512? Someone was beat to a pulp inside the bar.
Inside the bar.
Inside the bar. So I took a look at their liquor license. I went to the TABC's website. I pulled up the 512 bar there on 6th Street, and they are a blue. They're a restaurant. They're not a bar. So as a restaurant, they're supposed to post a 3.06, 3.07 sign to keep license holders from carrying, and if they don't want them to carry, and a 3.05 sign or some other similar sign to keep constitutional carry people from carrying, because they're a restaurant, not a bar, because they changed their liquor license during COVID, and they haven't changed their liquor license back. So, but what if I'm a license holder, Zach? I'm a license holder, and I walk into 512, and I don't see the 06 or the 07 sign as a license holder because their liquor license on the TABC's website says they're a restaurant. I didn't see the sign. So can I go in?
Yes.
Yes,
They need
absolutely.
to give you verbal warning to leave.
So they have to notice that I'm not carrying a gun. They have noticed I'm carrying a gun. And if I do a good job of concealing my gun, then what?
Then they never know.
Yeah. So I go in. Can I sit down at the bar?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can sit down at the bar and carry my firearm because I didn't see the sign, didn't notice the sign. Can I have a drink?
If you're a license holder, yes.
That's right. As a license holder, I can have a drink, and I can be at least I need to stay under that .08.
And if you don't have a license, then you cannot have a drink.
If you don't have a license, you are committing a crime. You cannot be intoxicated at all.
And if you are caught intoxicated with a weapon, anything above 0.00, then that is a firearms charge, isn't it?
That's right. And a lot of we come back. I'm gonna show you. I want to show you the unlawfully carrying weapon stats here in Texas. We're gonna go to the DPS's website, and we're gonna pull up their website and show you what it says for 2020 for unlawfully carrying a weapon convictions in Texas, and then we're gonna go to 2021 because in 2021. Constitutional carry went into effect on September. So that September, October, November, December, those 4 months, we're going to look at those numbers and see what they say. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Peace, this is Maj Toure. You're listening to Come and Talk It Radio with Michael Cargill.
He didn't act that way. He never flinched. He went for his pockets. And when he went for his pockets, I thought my heart was going to stop. I mean, Hi, my name's Jerry. The incident we're going to talk about took place in early March of 2017. Started back about 3 years ago. We had a fella in the neighborhood that nobody really knew. We weren't familiar with him, and he was pretty regular about speeding up and down the street. It escalated into more speeding, threats. He chunked some rocks up into the yard and broke my windshield in my truck, and it escalated from that into death threats. And he was constantly chirping about how he was gonna end it, and he was gonna kill so-and-so, he was gonna kill me, and it was all chirping. The day of the confrontation, I was leaving the neighborhood and heading to a meeting in downtown Fort Worth. It was a beautiful day, I had my windows down, I was in my Suburban. As I was heading out, just about to leave my neighborhood, this guy comes into the neighborhood, sees me coming out, pulls into my lane, causes me to stop, and then he kind of cut at an angle in front of me and jumped out of his truck and ran at the side of my Suburban, saying, "Today's the day you're gonna die, he's gonna end it." He comes over and he's slamming his hands up against the side of my vehicle, my truck. But he's screaming at me, telling me he's gonna kill me, he's gonna end it, this is the day I'm gonna die. He reaches in to try and open up my door. I grabbed my weapon, I put my weapon right at his chest at the window and told him to get back, told him to get the hell back. And he never did. He never moved, he never changed anything. He went for his pockets, shuffling into his pockets, and he pulls out his cell phone. I drove off around and called 911 before I got to the end of my street. Yeah, I've carried a weapon for pretty near 20 years, and I've never had to pull my weapon out. Now, I can tell you that when you do that, it's the emotions are incredible. You feel the flush come through your body because you just pulled a weapon on somebody, you're pointing a gun at somebody, and they don't move. And that's a whole nother, they didn't say, whoa, I'm stop, like anybody that you'd think would do that, but he didn't act that way. He never flinched. He went for his pockets, and when he went for his pockets, I thought my heart was going to stop. I was actually told that if he would have pulled out a gun, he'd have shot me before I could have actually pulled the trigger, and that's pretty awakening. I contacted Texas Law Shield and spoke with them and got a statement that I wrote, and I turned it in the following day. And it was subsequent to that I was told that I was going to be arrested for deadly conduct, and Texas Law Shield stepped up to the plate, and they got in my corner and handled it from there.
Factually, the case was unique because Jerry never got out of his vehicle, but was still forced to pull his weapon and defend himself. And you don't see that often. Usually, a self-defense case, both people are outside the vehicle.
They ended up arresting me. Texas Law Shield got me out in a matter of a very few hours. They called me on a regular basis and stayed in touch with me and kept me up to speed on what the progress was, but the delays took about 1.5 years before we got to trial.
Being this
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so we're talking about conviction rates in the state of Texas. So a lot of people don't know this, but the conviction rate for unlawfully carrying a weapon have actually gone up dramatically in Texas. 2018, 19, 20 was pretty consistent. And then in 2021, after constitutional carry went into effect, it actually shot up greatly. Because, everyone's all excited about constitutional carry, which you should be, but you need to be responsible. You need to find out what the laws are. Find out where you cannot take a firearm. Find out, when you can legally, threaten someone with a gun. When you can legally shoot a gun, discharge it. You got to find out use of force and deadly force. Talk about conflict resolution, how to calm those situations down. And people did not do that. So let's take a look at 2020. For the year 2020 in the state of Texas, you had unlawfully carrying a weapon. There were actually 1,049 convictions for unlawfully carrying a weapon for people who didn't have a license and decided to carry, but carry in the wrong place. We're talking convictions here. We're not talking about arrests. We're not talking about where it was, it was dismissed. We're talking straight convictions. Not talking about charges or any of that stuff. And then let's go over to 2021. So in 2021, constitutional carry went into effect on September the 1st of 2021. So then it jumped up dramatically. And you're talking September, October, November, December. We're talking constitutional carry went into effect, was only in effect for 4 months. And consistently from 2018, 19, it was very consistent. But then in 2021, it jumped up dramatically to almost 7,000 convictions. You're talking 6,924 convictions for people who carried in the wrong place and made a mistake. And guess what? That number is extremely even higher for 2022. Even higher than that. And so a lot of people you're rightfully so. You should be excited about constitutional carry. It's a right that we all should have. But we got to be responsible. Got to find out what the laws are. Take a class and learn the laws. Don't assume something. Don't get your information from social media. You got to find out what the laws are and know what you can and cannot do. Because a firearm is a great responsibility. And when you're carrying a gun, you need to know what the laws are. Because if you discharge that firearm and you're not supposed to, guess what? Even if you're justified, you're possibly looking at paying $20,000 to defend yourself just before the grand jury, because you're going to be fingerprinted, booked, spend night in jail, to pay yourself in jail, to hire an attorney. And if you don't have 20 grand, you're that 6,924 people who got a straight conviction. So get your butt in class and learn what the laws are. You're carrying a gun, learn the laws. Don't get convicted. Because once you get in trouble, there's nothing I can do. We get these phone calls every single week of someone who's done something, and they want our help. There's nothing we can do for you. We are not attorneys. I cannot help you. I can only help you in class. You come to class before something happens, we can talk it out and talk about what you should, what you shouldn't do. But once it happens and you're charged, there's nothing I can do. You got to call an attorney. I'm not an attorney. I cannot give you legal advice. I cannot stress that enough. All right, so, and like I said, 2022, when those numbers come out, and you're going to see, I guarantee you, after this airs this week, when we post the clips of this show, you're going to see some reporters run this story. They're going to talk about, wow, the conviction rates, and they're going to get the new numbers for 2022. Just watch just watch and see. It's like reading into the future. All right, so, man, Zach, let's go. Let's talk about, let's go to Maine. Over in Maine. All right, so a 75-year-old man was in custody accused of holding his wife hostage with a gun inside their home in Maine. This happened on Friday. Police arrived at the home around 12:10 p.m. after receiving a tip from a citizen about the incident. And so the police arrived, they formed a perimeter, they talked to the guy, finally convinced him to come out peacefully, and the man was taken to a medical facility for a mental health evaluation. The reason I'm talking about this story is because we know of people that are in your family, your household, one of your, maybe not in your household, but they're a close relative that are having some type of issues. We have to step up. I've had someone in my family very close to me have an issue, maybe mix some medication, maybe 3 or 4 medications from the doctor. They didn't mix right. Giving this person maybe hallucinations and things of that nature. And so we had to remove the guns from the home, get them to voluntarily go into a facility, get the drugs, the medication out of their system, and then get them to, level out and back to normal. And then about 6 months, boom, gave them their guns back. We, as family members, that is our responsibility to do that. We don't get law enforcement involved. I'm not calling the police to my house. I don't need the police to come to my house unless I need the coroner. And then that's the difference. I'm not calling the police, not calling, we as family need to get involved in our family. If you love your loved ones, get them some help that they need, that something is wrong with them. And so we can fix a lot of these issues. Don't let it make it into a news story. Don't let it make it into, someone in the family dying, being shot. We have to step up to the plate and take responsibility for our loved ones and get them some help and get them some assistance. And we can do that without calling law enforcement. You get them to voluntarily go into a facility, to get, whatever it is, level out, get it fixed, work it through, and then, eventually get their firearms back. You can, and we do that all the time at the gun store. We have people all the time. We have a storage facility where we store firearms here, at the gun store. And if a person's going through, tough times, they're going through some troubling issues, we hold onto those guns. And then once those issues are worked out, they come back into the gun store. They got to make them fill out a firearms transaction record to make sure they can pass a background check and get the guns back. That's what we do. And we've got to step up to the plate as family, as gun owners, and be a little more responsible when it comes to that, because I don't want legislation. I don't want some law, some rule. We're losing control. We're getting the anti-gun community has gained control of the Senate. And if we lose control of the House, they have control of the White House, and we're going to have some gun control laws come down if we don't hold on to the House. So, and we'll see what happens in 2 years, because now we have to wait 2 years for the next election to see what's going to happen with the Senate and the House. Okay. And also the White House. So, we've got to step up to the plate, Zach. What do you think?
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. And then, man, let's go to Oregon. What happened in Oregon?
Oh, no, we don't want to go there.
You don't go to Oregon? Is it bad?
They just passed the strictest gun control measures in the country.
Oh, no.
Measure 114.
Was this on the ballot?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So the people voted it in 51% to 49% so far.
Oh, wow.
They're expecting it to pass. They haven't all been tallied, the votes, but the ones that have not are in counties that all heavily favor the measure.
Oh, wow.
So this measure
What does it do?
requires people who live in Oregon to obtain a permit to buy a gun after completing a firearm safety course, and would ban the sale or transfer of magazines that hold more than 10 rounds. So similar to that Washington,
So you won't be able to have a magazine that
yeah,
more than 10 rounds.
no more than 10 rounds.
Wow. Okay. And this is all private sales as well?
Um, uh, let's see. It would close the so-called Charleston loophole by requiring state police to complete full background checks on buyers with permits before any gun sale or transfer.
So you got to do the background check even if you have a license?
Under federal law now, firearms dealers can sell guns without a completed background check if the check takes longer than 3 days.
Right. So yeah, so if a person is delayed, so there's okay. So it sounds like what they're saying is if a person is delayed for 3 business days, we can transfer the firearm to them now. But they're saying in Oregon, you have to wait until you get a proceed before you can transfer the firearm.
Well, that's the NICS. That's the federal database, right?
Right, right.
So this is saying it requires state police to complete full background checks on buyers with
Wow.
permits
With
before any gun sale or transfer.
So even if they have a license and they've gone through the background check system, they still want them to get a background check.
Mhm.
Wow,
State police background check.
that's crazy. That's a waste of manpower. You already
Yeah.
have a license. If you do something, you're going to lose that license. It'll be suspended or revoked if you do something.
Mhm.
Once you have the license. That's really silly and that's a waste of manpower there. Oregon, bad Oregon, bad Oregon,
Bad. Shame.
shame, very
Shame.
shameful. All right, we come back from the break. We're gonna go to
Shame.
we're gonna go
Shame.
go to Connecticut, and we're gonna talk about a gun hidden in a chicken at the airport. What is up? A gun hidden in a chicken at the airport.
That's terrible.
Man, and then also we have some letters, Zach. We're gonna talk about those letters. Have
Oh,
you
yeah.
read? We got some
I
mail.
got my first letter.
Yeah, you got
Yes.
mail. You got mail.
I got
feel special
mail.
now.
Yay!
Hey,
Yay!
that's
I
not
got
me.
mail. I got mail.
All right, we're going to talk about all that stuff when we come back from the break. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Hey, this is AWR Hawkins, Breitbart News, and you're listening to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.
Hello, my name is Edwin Walker. I'm an independent program attorney with Texas Law Shield. I want to talk to you today about an issue that we see on a daily basis. In fact, you yourself will encounter it on a daily basis, and that is the subject of road rage. I am sure that you have all seen road rage. You may have actually been involved in a road rage incident. Now, if you're a responsible gun owner, I'm going to give you a few words of advice on how to react when you find yourself in one of these unfortunate road rage incidents. While on the roadways, we all observe something that makes us upset. Whether it's poor driving, unsafe driving, or just simply somebody being very discourteous. By all means, you should restrain yourself from engaging that person and telling them how bad their actions were, because this can be perceived as an act of road rage. If you're a lawful gun owner, you have a firearm in your vehicle, you do not want to be viewed as the aggressor in a road rage situation. Now, with regard to a situation where an individual has chosen to rage against you, and you are the actual victim of the road rage, if you and the other individuals are still in their automobiles, do not use your firearm to respond to any of the rager's activities. This is because law enforcement views the fact that you're both still safely in your metal boxes as removing any threat of immediacy that you may be harmed. So please, if you have a gun, somebody is raging against you, forget you have a gun. Don't display it, don't brandish it, don't show it, don't point it, and for God's sake, don't fire it. This could result in a lot of trouble for you. Now let's look at a situation where a road rage incident has escalated. It has escalated to the point where one of the participants has actually gotten out of their vehicle. We recommend that you stay in your vehicle at all times. Do not exit your vehicle, because the person who exits their vehicle is going to be looked at as the aggressor. If the other individual has exited their vehicle and they are not in contact with your vehicle and they do not have a weapon, then do not feel that you can display your weapon in an act of self-defense. People are allowed to just simply stand there and scream at you, scream whatever they want. Until they make a demonstrative effort to try to harm you, there is no immediate threat that would justify displaying or shooting or brandishing your firearm. Now, in the event that the person shows their own weapon, in particular a firearm, the existence of their weapon would give you reasonable belief that there was an immediate threat of harm that would justify.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
Got mail. All right. Zach, you got some mail.
I got mail. Yay.
I got mail.
I got mail. Yay.
Oh, my goodness. Zach's got some mail.
Did you have that one just waiting for me?
All right, so Zach, what's in the mail there? What do we have?
A lot of stuff from the Epic Times.
It's all fake news.
No, it's not. So it's clippings from basically is printed paper.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love
Got
it.
them addressed to the gun shop with no return address.
Yeah.
And my name written on the side.
Yeah. I was like, Zach.
Yeah.
All right.
And
So what we got?
Said, Zach, thanks for reading the article last week on the air.
Nice.
It's interesting, isn't it, how upset liberals get when a small sample of their bad policies come to their hometown with no regard to damage they've created for Texas.
Shut your mouth.
Isn't it only right they should share the responsibility? After all, they created it.
That's right. That's right.
But yeah, there's a clipping about a Missouri police chief that resigns over new Second Amendment bill.
Oh, wow.
Philip Dupuy, police chief of O'Fallon, Missouri, has resigned over a new bill in the state that bars officers from entering or attempting to enforce federal laws that infringe on Second Amendment rights.
Don't let the doorknob hit you with the good Lord split you.
Oh, wow. Yep.
See ya.
In a statement to news outlets, Dupuy said, "The problem with this statute is the poorly worded language that removes sovereign immunity and appears to allow law enforcement agencies and individual police officers to be sued for even good faith justified seizures of firearms in emergency circumstances."
Well, I guess you better not do it then, huh?
Bye. Bye, Felicia.
Bye, Felicia.
Yeah.
Adios, mofo.
Also, a clipping about a new policy that requires firearms dealers to disclose buyer data to the government. Buyer addresses for each denied or failed transaction, which you've gone over a few times, right? That you'll have to do.
That's right.
As a gun dealer, if anyone is denied or delayed, then you have to relay that information to the FBI.
Yeah, so their address gets released to the FBI and it gets put in the system where every law enforcement agency in the country knows that they were delayed or denied.
And people get denied just because they have the same name as some other person.
False positives.
Right?
That's right. False positives. Happens
They
all
happen
the time.
all the time.
Happens all the time. The majority of my customers that are denied, if they actually, when they go through the appeal process, they actually get it cleared up, whatever it is. They get it fixed because it's usually some type of mistake.
But they're still on these databases, I'm sure.
Boom, you still get hit. So that's why it's better that you get your license carry handgun. So there's no contacting, there's no giving your information to the federal government at all. And to law, we don't give your information to law enforcement unless that gun is stolen or used in a crime, or if you buy 2 handguns of more than a 5-day period, or 2 rifles of more than a 5-day period.
Yep. Then they have to contact your local LEO or sheriff, right?
That's right. Then it's faxed. It gets sent in pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then what are the other what are the clippings there?
Another article about is titled "Gun Control in Tough Spot in Increasingly Well-Armed America."
Ooh, what is that
Any
about?
proposition to disarm Americans is a quote pipe dream, says a former federal prosecutor, as new gun owners drive the market.
Mm.
You see a lot of first-time gun owners at the shop, first-time buyers.
A lot. We get, and that's what we're getting in the firearm safety course. A combination of first time buyers and oops, I got charged with unlawfully carrying a weapon. I got to take a firearm safety course. So,
So I teach that.
That's what
and
you do. You do an outstanding job.
Yeah,
Outstanding
it's
job.
fun. Yeah, it's a good class to teach. Just go over the basics and
Rain, sleet, or snow, or freezing, like it was
or
today.
if it's 44 degrees,
which is freezing in Texas, which is, we're 1 inch from death.
It was great weather today.
Apparently, because a lot of people wanted to reschedule because it's too cold. I don't want to get out of bed.
It's only going to get colder.
Yeah, I know.
I guess they have to get used to the cold, acclimated to it.
They didn't want to get out of bed this morning.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because of the UT loss last night.
Oh.
Lost to TCU 17-10.
Oh.
But TCU's 10-0 now.
Woo.
Yeah.
Well.
And my niece goes there.
TU.
She's all of a sudden into football.
What you guys call it? You guys call it TU or something? TCU?
Texas?
Yeah, Tech, because you're Texas Tech. So you guys call them.
TTU.
No,
No, it's another college. It's A&M. They call UT TU because they say A&M was the original Texas college.
Oh, okay.
Or university.
Gotcha. Instead of calling them UT, TU.
Yeah, I knew a guy in high school that used to say that about UT.
Really?
Because he's a huge,
Texas A&M fan.
Well, he wanted to go there, and he did. So, yeah, even before he was going to college there, he was already educating me on that. So I learned that quite some time ago.
I like Texas Tech. I like the Texas Tech colors.
Red and black?
I love that red and black.
You would.
That's right.
That's your colors.
Yes, I love that red and black. Texas
That's great.
Tech.
They have a very good color scheme.
They sure do.
Better than burnt orange, I'd say.
Yeah, Raider Rationale. All right, so next story.
Next story. At-risk youths find direction in a community marching band.
What?
In Palm Beach County, Florida.
Wow, Florida.
Hey.
How does this work out?
It's working out pretty well.
Okay.
Most of these kids are accustomed to being left behind, and I want to be the one that gives them a sense of hope, says Antoine Miller, founder of Sounds of Success.
Yeah, it's nothing like being in a in a band. Concert band, marching band.
You were in one, weren't you?
I was a musician.
Played the tuba.
Tuba, trumpet, and trombone.
Tuba, trumpet, trombone.
That's right. Yeah.
3 T's.
That's right. TTT. That's right. Yeah. Love. I know more about music than I do anything else. And so used to teach all the Marines, the Navy, and the Army how to march in a military style band at the Armed Forces School of Music. I was an instructor there for a couple years. So enjoyed that. That was probably the highlight of my military career. Being at the Armed Forces School of Music and teaching them how to march and doing one of the major change of commands for the academy, for the school there. And I remember the new commandant, the commander of the school, came over afterwards and patted me on the back, saying, "Man, that was one of the best performances he's ever seen. The band, how we actually use dynamics, in the marching band, where we not just played loud music, we actually brought it down a little bit and played the dynamics of the actual march." So he loved that. So it was great. That was like one of the highlights of I can just talk forever about music.
Yeah, so this organization in Palm Beach County, Florida is, helping keep kids off of the life of crime.
Nice.
So that's good. I mean, anything that helps at-risk youths, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so this guy was born in, basically, he says, the projects or the hood of Fort Lauderdale.
The hood of Fort Lauderdale. That's where I'm from.
Yeah, a lot of violence there? Yeah. Oh, yeah, you would know. Didn't you go fishing one time? Was that in Fort Lauderdale?
Yeah, that was in Fort Lauderdale. Went fishing for the first time with my dad, and I pulled out a dead body.
Oh, man.
Never been fishing since. Not me.
I would have never gone back.
You're not going to get me on the lake. I'm traumatized. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah.
Even still today, I'm traumatized.
For good reason.
That's right.
So apparently that's, high drug area. Violence was high. Domestic violence was high, this guy says. lots of drugs and gangs. This guy never got involved with either. He says he escaped those traps through music, and he joined the marching band in 6th grade. And then one night, his friends wanted to go out and kind of get in trouble. He was hanging with a girl he knew who encouraged him not to go, so he didn't. Later that night, they were arrested. And then that was his turning point that kind of led him down the road of starting this organization. And so he made this happen, and it sounds like he's doing a lot of positive stuff for the at-risk youths in Lauderdale.
All right, let's go to Connecticut real quick. So in Connecticut, they're worried that a gun law is going to be struck down. So an old, 3-decade-old ban on semi-automatic weapons is going to be struck down. They think it's at a real risk there. They're worried about a judge, doing an order to temporarily lift the ban, and so they're having a hissy fit over in Connecticut there.
They're banning semi-automatic weapons?
So they're some type of ban that they have for semi-automatics.
They're lifting the ban?
Yeah, and then yes, there's a lawsuit that's been filed against with a Colorado organization, and so the state of Connecticut is worried that the judge is going to temporarily lift the type of ban that they actually have.
Semi-automatic weapons are the vast majority of all guns. Pretty much all pistols.
That's right.
Most rifles, other than bolt action.
And the last one is Florida. TSA checkpoint. It's always got to be at the airport where a gun was found inside a raw chicken at an airport security checkpoint. The plot chickens. The Transportation Security Administration posted this week on Instagram after someone at the agency put on their punny pants and called attention to the best of time. That is stuffing a bird with a firearm. Boy, I tell you, we'll try anything.
It's a great gun case,
Oh, yeah. In a chicken. I tell you what, as always, more guns equals less crime. You go out there and you buy yourself a gun. You've been listening to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.